Well, hello, everybody. This is Josh Lane with the Eight Shields Institute here today, and I'm interviewing Rowena Conahan. And Rowena has been part of first our Art of Mentoring Leadership Program. It's been renamed Rebuilding Nature Connected Communities. And you've been in the program for quite a while now in different capacities, and it's been really fun to see you grow through different stages of working with this material, bringing it into your own life, bringing it into what you're doing in your community. So I'm really excited to have this chance to connect with you today and just, hear a bit about your journey and what this has been like for you. What are some things that have stood out for you along the way on this learning journey? So hello and greetings today.
Yeah, hello to you. Thank you very much for having me.
Yeah, definitely an honor. And I was wondering if you could start just by giving us a little bit of background on yourself, where you're from, what you're doing, and how you got involved in this to begin with.
Well, I live in Ann Arbor, Michigan, and I am a founder of the nature learning community there. And I'm doing that because I attended an Art of Mentoring 20 years ago in Ann Arbor. And and I just kind of fell into that experience. Friends told me I would probably like it. I had the time off. It was just a thing I could possibly do. So I dropped in and it changed my life. And at the time I was getting ready to be a new mother and didn't really have the ability to like jump on it and go travel and do all kinds of things to really learn about it. So I had to take it at a pretty slow pace. But that experience planted seeds for me of, sort of cultural possibilities that just grew very slowly inside of me. And finally, a few years ago, the online options were available, and I picked it up and wrapped it close to my heart and have just been continuing to show up ever since then.
Oh, that's awesome. And just for those who might be watching this who haven't been to an Art of Mentoring yet, I know for myself, I can mirror what you're saying. I went to one of those long ago and felt this amazing week-long experience of really powerful learning that was happening for me on so many levels of all my senses, with curiosity, with role modeling, and I couldn't explain how it was happening. It was built into the culture of the event, into the learning culture, and it wasn't something that I could put a point on because I hadn't experienced that yet in my Western education. So I'm curious, could you talk a little bit about what that week was like for you and how that impacted you?
Well, um, it was a long time ago, so I'll obviously it's like these little islands of memory, like the specific things that I remembered. Um, I was very young. I was in my mid 20s, and I was already a classroom teacher at that time. And I thought that what I was, getting into would help with that. And I was so lucky as to teach in a classroom that was very outdoors, so I was already really interested in that. And we walked in, and they had us draw nature names, and it kind of assigned us to groups, and it assigned us roles within groups, and I was assigned to the north role. Of course, it was magic choosing this, not a person saying, oh, you'll be the north. And I was, the youngest person in the group by like decades, and I just really felt very strange about that. I was like, okay, I'm supposed to be the leader of the group. Let's see how this goes. And we sat in a great big circle, and we went out onto the land, and we came back in, went out onto the land, and came back in. Just it seemed like magic was just happening around every corner. And I, remember just crying at one point, kind of later on in the week. One of the instructors just sort of claimed me as a relative, just in a moment of sweetness, and I was just melted. And I just remember hearing about the Wilderness Awareness School, which is, where that was emerging from at the time. And just cultural elements going on out there, Council of Elder and the Acorn, and just the concept of sending that community a message from our community, like we were a community, like we'd just become this group of people who came together for a class, and now we were a community, and that planted itself inside me more than anything else. Just that idea that you could have this community and could be linked up with other communities, and that it could have this kind of organization that could bring us into this kind of feeling state and relation with the natural world and with each other. It felt so good.
Wow, that's amazing. Yeah, that's bringing back memories for me too. And for those who, are new to art of mentoring, so in this experience, as Rowena just described, there's this team working behind the scenes, the Acorn team, and they're working with the 8 directions, and each member of the team has a specific role and a specific way of bringing a perspective to the group. And so that's what's holding the container for the whole event of the art of mentoring. That's part of what brings that special feeling of connection. It makes that really come alive. And so that's what became the Art of Mentoring Leadership Program. How do we create that special feeling in an event or in a team setting? And how do we train that at a distance for people? And that's what's become Rebuilding Nature Connected Communities, just for those who are just tuning into this year. So now with your work in the nature school that you're involved with, how has that played out? How has this impacted your community locally?
So I've been taking the things I've learned through the distance program and putting them everywhere I can possibly put them. And the place where maybe it's happening most consciously is through our public events, which it's easiest in that setting to draw people in and say, okay, let's have you try out these roles. Let me share with you directional roles, and I'm still the North because that's the team leader, the person who knows the roles. And let's weave this basket of felt experience and invite people to come in and see what it's like for them and see what it's like for us, and then figure it all out at the end. And just people love it. The first time I really did an event and had it be an Acorn-led event was particularly interesting. We do movie nights. We, once a year or so, we pick out a movie that's sort of related to nature connection and, a culture of people close to the earth. And we invite people to watch the movie, and then we discuss it together. Maybe we start with a potluck before the movie. And we'd actually been doing this for several years, and it had always been really, really fun. And it's something I can just do by myself if I want to. I can just, kind of put the word out and pick the movie and set it up, and it's not that hard. But we put an Acorn together for it, probably not even 8 people. I think it was maybe 4 people. And we met beforehand and we talked about how it would go. And we welcomed people really beautifully, and we put a lot of attention into making things beautiful and, going the extra mile to make sure everybody knew exactly, where the things they needed were. And we came together beforehand, and we brought ourselves into a state of unity beforehand. And then we just watched movie night happen again. And it was really different. The feeling of it was really very, very beautiful. The participants were they wouldn't go away. They were so happy. And it was just clearly a different thing than the way it had been done before, even though it was very nice before.
Wow, that's so awesome. It's amazing how just a few simple little tweaks in how a team flows and how that intention's carried into the event can impact the whole feeling of the event for everybody. So that's really cool to hear. And then in your community, could you describe a little bit about your programs and what ages and stages of life are involved?
Well, so we have something for everybody. We have a preschool class and we have an adult program. We aren't seeing a lot of older teens yet. I think we need to be a more mature program to do that. But we've got our preschool and we've got our 5 to 12-year-old, or more like 7 to 12-year-old age range class. We've got a class that's for young teens, and we've got some adult programs. They're mostly all outdoors. In the middle of the winter, we'll, take some of the classes inside when it's dreadfully cold, or, for the adult classes when they really just need to sit peacefully and consider ideas together, we'll be indoors. But yeah, we're outside a lot.
Wow, that's awesome to see so many different groups of people, different ages, and still room to grow within that, but amazing to see how that community is building there. So in terms of what you've been learning in what was formerly Argumentary Leadership, now Rebuilding Nature Connected Communities, part of that is about the personal journey. So we get tools that we do implement on a community level for those who want to do that, but we also focus a lot on qualities like building a sense of connection with nature for ourselves, and finding that place of creativity and the quiet mind inside of us that helps us connect to that. So I'm curious, on that personal level, just through the practices that you've experienced in the training, what's really stuck out to you in that? How's that helped you, and how's that helped you to help the people in your community that you serve?
So I'm a longtime Kumana student. And so I had already been working on my personal nature connection journey for a while. And the class added for me a layer of contact with other people who were also going to a sit spot, who were also looking at the natural world in a certain way that I didn't have during the earliest parts of my Kumana journey. And contact with instructors, through the phone calls, just knowing that, when you're studying through the Kumana program, it's incredible. Someone out there cares, that you're doing these things and ultimately wants to hear about them. But this was more frequent, regular contact, and the assignments sent you to your sit spot to experience the qualities of the directions. Maybe those were some of my favorite assignments. I think probably my favorite assignment was to go out and sit at the time of the sunrise and take in that Eastern quality of the sunrise and the welcoming aspects of it. And at the time that I did the assignment, I think I thought of myself as a not particularly welcoming person by nature. And to be asked to do that. Now, it wasn't just that we were being asked to take in those qualities. We were actually asked to live them for 2 weeks. At least that's how I remember the assignment, is that I was going to go and I was going to be the sunrise while I was washing the dishes, while I was interacting with other people, while I was driving the car, getting up, going to bed, just really be it. And I remember going into it thinking, this is just going to feel really inauthentic. I'm going to feel like I'm just trying really hard not to be weird with people. And it really was very transformative for me. I did find a way to have that sunshine in me. It was like a piece of my personality that just wasn't awake yet. And it wasn't weird. It was my real East, and I just love that. I love that it's in me now, and it can shine out whenever it really needs to be there. And it's on a slow burn in the background at other times. What an amazing experience that was. And of course, in terms of how it helps other people, like the embodiment aspect of what you get in the Art of Mentoring Leaders, or the new name, whatever that is now. That embodiment aspect of it, there's really nothing on earth like a person who's standing in front of you being the quality they're inviting you to try being. that's, I mean, you can tell someone all about it, but to stand there and be it for them and with them, that's really, I mean, that's how I introduce people to the idea of being part of an Acorn,
Mm,
is just to really like be that quality in as many ways as I can.
mm. That's so awesome. And that really points at, why we design that in, because it's easy, you look at so many different management programs out there or things that train people to work as a team. And so much of it is logistical based, like, okay, you do this, this, and this, and you do these things. And it becomes like a list of tasks. And if we approach it with that, then people can feel that, like, oh, they're just going through these things they have to do. But when we can access that space of that archetype of nature, like you just described, the east and the sunrise and that inspiration that comes through, if we can connect with that out in nature and then find that within ourselves, because it's already there, but maybe in our particular personality matrix it's not expressed as much for whatever reason. But if we can find that and bring that and infuse those roles that we hold with that energy, it's going to just shine through. And I can really see that in you. I can really see that, how that is alive. And just in the hosting, because for those who don't know, Rowena, she stepped into hosting on these calls as well and providing part of the training now after going through this journey. I could really feel that held so nicely as you welcome people onto the calls and facilitate. So just kudos to you, and really going into that deep inquiry of what is this energy and how do I authentically find my own expression of it. So it's really cool to hear that.
Thank you.
That's so awesome. Um, just in terms of, I know we've been going for a while here, but just any things you'd like to say to people who are considering the program, any particular folks you'd recommend it for, or ways you see this really helping people out there?
So I think there's always a place for a program like this for personal development. So to do it just because you would like to grow in this way. And I think there's, it's incredible leadership training. So if you have a program, or you're a teacher or you're a counselor or anywhere where having these perspectives might, go out and create connective community for you. Whether it's group or one-on-one setting, it's incredible training. I just can't recommend it enough.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, thank you so much for doing the work you're doing in the world and all the lives that you're impacting, just with your own authentic, real curiosity and passion for connection, because I can feel it coming through in your voice and your gestures, and certainly in the vision that you're walking forward for yourself and your community there. So thank you for joining us today and sharing a bit about your journey with rebuilding nature connected communities. Thank you, Rowena.
Yeah, thanks a lot.
And do you have a website, by the way, that people could check out to see what you're doing as well?
Sure. naturelearningcommunity.org is the website. Yeah.
Excellent.
All one word.
naturelearningcommunity.org. Awesome. Well, thank you so much. And thanks to everybody who tuned in today.